I
Hey
didn't
there,
hit any
welcome to
buttons. I don't know if I
ATL
shook the
29
computer or
podcast that
something,
looks at
but
the NBA from the starting
I
point
will
of
edit
Atlanta.
it
My
as
name is
best
Kevin
you
Chenard.
can.
I'm
You
here
want to go
with
back to what you heard
Tyler
on
Jones
Locked
and
On? You
Glen
go
Willis,
back to the
and it
Locked On
is the
Hawks
All
comment or
Star
something,
break.
and
No,
I'll see
seam
the
it
Hawks
together.
went
I was
on
I was
a
just saying Wagner got,
three-game
Wagner got
trip
beat, sticks his leg out.
just
Like
prior to the
that's
All Star break,
reckless.
1-2, and lost
I
the
thought
last
that should
one
have been
in New
upgraded
York.
to a flagrant foul. Like
I
there's no
guess we'll
place for that in
start with
the NBA.
Tyler. Any
Like
big
you get
leftover
beat, you're
thoughts
gonna
from that
stick your leg out. Like
loss in New
what
York?
is this? He broke Nance's
It was a
kneecap.
fun
Like that
game
was
overall.
inexcusable.
You know,
And for that
uh,
to happen in back-to-back plays,
entertaining as
absolutely
all
ridiculous.
Hawks Knicks
I
games
and
apparently
this
are
is not
just
the
going to
first
be
time with the Magic. The
forever.
Magic
So,
have
uh,
have kind of a rap sheet this
a
year of
little
hurting guys
frustrating in that
with their
it felt
recklessness.
like
That's
overall, I
something the
thought
NBA needs to be
in
like,
some
yo, this
ways the
happens
Hawks
again.
were
People are
outplaying the
getting
Knicks, but the
suspended.
Knicks were just
We're
out
hammering out fines
executing
because they took
the
out two rotation
Hawks
players from the Hawks,
more
and
consistently, if that makes sense. I think
it cost them the game. It
it
cost them the
just
game
felt
against the
like
Knicks, flat out.
the Hawks were
No Nance,
constantly
no Capella. Like
putting
the
themselves
Hawks were always going to be
unnecessarily
on an
on the
uphill
back
battle
foot,
when
while the
Okongwu went to
Knicks
the bench. Like
were just more seasoned, knew what they needed
there
to do on
should have
both
been
ends
more
of the floor
punishment
to
on the
ultimately pull out
NBA.
the win. Um, e-
Yeah,
except for the
I
last like
mean,
15
I never
seconds
want
of
to
the game.
say it
That
was
was pretty
malicious,
funny.
but it was,
Uh,
to me, both plays
so
were
that
very
was fun for the
reckless
Hawks. But like
and
overall, I thought, it
unnecessary.
was a game
You know,
they probably
and just
they
be
might have been able,
professional
they probably should have
and
won if,
have some
they
awareness
did do the
about what
things
you're doing and the impact it can have to
they're
the players
supposed to
around
do.
you on the floor.
But
You get
overall, like it
you
was
get beat
good
on a
effort
dunk,
from them,
man. Don't
all
go
things
undercut that guy
considered.
and put him flat on the ground. It's just
What'd you think, Glenn?
like I said, I never want to say like, oh,
Yeah, I mean
he's trying to
you're
hurt
facing a
him,
team in the
but
Knicks that
they were
are
completely
losing
unnecessary reckless
Ben
plays,
since
both of
basically
them.
the first game of the season,
And
right?
so they've
Okay,
built some
but okay
continuity and
for
things like that in
professional
the
Hawks are
NBA players
still
to
be
keep
that
on figuring
reckless on
out
the floor.
adjustments and things like that. The Larry
Straight
Nance
up.
injury,
All right.
super
Anything else
unfortunate,
we
like really,
want
really
to mention
unfortunate.
here in passing before we head
And
out?
then Veet, too. I mean,
Go to the
losing
break.
those two guys,
All right, go to the break.
Glenn had to roll
Watch
with a
some
lot of
Rising
Levert
Stars,
and a
watch
lot
some
of
All
Niang,
Star.
in that game.
All right.
And
Well, I
when
appreciate you
Niang caught
jumping
that ball in
on
the corner
a
and shot it, I was
weird
like,
Thursday and
I thought that thing was going to go
headed
in,
into the
but I
break,
didn't.
and we'll do it again soon.
You look
Thanks,
at
guys. And
34
good night,
minutes
Bob, I
and
guess.
Good night,
fast-paced
Bob.
game, not just a 34. That was a very fast-paced game.
Yeah.
And I guess he just didn't have the legs there at the end.
Yeah,
Onyeka did a great job getting that rebound and passing it out. So for me, I still get frustrated by the Trey ISOs at the end of the game. I mean, Trey with Mikal Bridges on him. I just don't know what kind of shot that's supposed to generate. And again, I understand that in the NBA, a lot of times the coaches just say, "Hey, superstar, what do you want to run? What do you want to do? Where do you want the ball?" That's how it goes a lot of times. Um, but this is a trend, and I just wonder when we might see some other wrinkle than that because generally it's been unsuccessful. Trey was
Well,
phenomenal.
I mean,
I don't agree with that at all, but I understand fans' frustration.
I think
I
the
just think
numbers on Trey's end of game numbers this season are actually pretty good.
pretty good. Yeah. I'm I don't know. I look, Trey Young, I trust him to get a good shot at the end of games, at the end of possessions. He's had some miscues these last couple
Yeah.
games. I think he would readily admit he hasn't done what he needed to do. I think a big part of that is Bogey's not here anymore. And like he doesn't have that rapport with these other, like he doesn't have the rapport with Karis LeVert in particular, because I want to highlight him on the last play. I thought LeVert needed to be the man in the action because the person was guarding was Shaman. And like, I don't think Shaman had the size to necessarily handle LeVert. And I think the Hawks could have gotten a switch there instead of going to Trey Okongwu pick and roll. But like you look at the basketball players on the floor, it's Okongwu, Niang, Karis LeVert, and who am I missing? Missing somebody else,
Dyson.
but like Dyson
Dyson.
Daniels. Yes. And like the the guy he has most rapport with is uh, Dyson and Okongwu right now. Like just full stop. And Dyson has his limitations offensively that he's working through, and he's done a pretty good job of doing that. But he does have his limitations on the offensive side of the floor that kind of hamper him and putting him in the action because teams would just live with him taking the open jump shot. Meanwhile, you have a Kongu who is a center. And like I think it's just easier, especially late clock situations, to manage a pick and roll, in that environment when there's less than like 8 seconds to go in the game. So to me, I think Trey just needs to build more confidence in between Levert, Niang, and potentially Ricochet, uh, so that he can trust them to execute what needs to happen. I think the Hawks got good actions between Trey and Hunter, and now Trey has to find a replacement for that in these very specific late game situations. But overall, it's hard for me to complain when he got a shot up at the rim before time ran out that gave his team a chance to get the offensive rebound. He did draw enough help to get a Congu an offensive rebound that led to an open corner 3-pointer. I can only, you can only be so angry at the result, even though I thought his process still wasn't great. And I do understand Hawks fans' frustration with why does Trey look, Jalen Brunson ISO'd against Dyson Daniels and it worked because he just made the shot. You know, like that's all the Knicks did. This is what the great players do at the end of games. I've literally seen Trey Young dish like kill in ISO situations. I just think in that particular in a couple of these games, in these couple of these possessions, Trey's not getting the optimal outcome because he's operating alongside a guy he's not used to playing. Like I think if it was Bogey out there, Bogey setting that flash screen, he's sprinting to the corner, that's drawing help, and then Trey attacks going to his right. Like that's what he wants to do, get to his float. Um, or if you take that away, he gets to the crossover. He doesn't have that currently with the guys on hand. Maybe he needs to trust Niang more, but like he's only been playing with Niang for like two minutes basically. So I want to I understand people's frustrations, but like that last possession isn't why they lost the game, and they still got a great shot. It's I don't want to question somebody like Trey too much on his process because I've seen it work. So what we've literally seen it work this season and then seasons past so often that it's hard for me to be so critical if it doesn't work. Like he still like he got a good shot up. It wasn't a great shot, but he's made those, and he might have potentially drawn a foul if he sold it a bit more. But I think he
Yeah.
tried to sell it actually too much. He should have just tried to go score. But like, it's shout out to Mikal Bridges. Played great defense on that position too. So
Yeah, I mean, I think back to when Trey has made big shots. It's like we all think about the Lakers game, that two-man action with Hunter, which you kind of talked about there, Tyler. It's like, can he run that with the Yang now, right? And can they generate motion? What the Knicks did, they ran just old classic four flat and cleared the middle of the floor for Brunson and let Brunson go one-on-one,
Hmm.
right? With Trey, oftentimes it's a screen, and they were spamming pick and roll like very successfully the whole game. But late possession, short clock, Tibbs is going to have his team absolutely crash the paint and not let the lob be there to Nyeka, right?
yep,
And that really cut a lot of space down. And now Onyeka worked his tail off and got that rebound. And I mean, they got a great shot in the corner. I mean, you tell me I can get a wide open corner three from the angle at the buzzer. I'll take that. I'll take my chances on that anytime. And so I think the effort was great. I love Trey. I'm not trying to be hard on him. I'm just interested in a little bit more diversity in how they generate shots for him at the end of game, especially when you got a guy like so much length like Mikal Bridges, right?
yeah,
Uh, can they, when there's time, can they generate more motion? Can they use guard screens? Can they, force a switch that gives him a little bit something more workable than having Bridges on him? And maybe if Quinn like heard this, he'd say, Glenn, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like this is what we're trying to do. I'm not an NBA coach, but when he attacks in isolation, defenses cut his space off. They take space away from him a lot of the time. And I think it's very hard for a smaller guard to kind of deal with that. So I I want Trey to take those shots too. I trust Trey to take those shots too. Trey has made game winners across his career. We know he can do that. I'm really, if I'm a little critical, it's more of the coaching process around how to get him better set up for success. on a possession like that. That's where my head is.
I like to me on that possession in particular, I thought Dyson needed to audible and throw the ball to Levert because I thought Levert had Shamet beat, but he because they made contact, but Levert was just a bigger player and he fought through him. I thought if Dyson would have thrown him the ball there, he would have had a driving layup. That's where I'm like, does Jalen Johnson make that pass? Because I've seen Jalen make that type of, you know,
Oh yeah,
out of the box. This is not what the coach designed, but I see that I have a man open here type of inbound play. I think Dyson could have had a chance to audible there and get it to him, but he didn't. And like again, if they the it's fun to like it is something they have to work through these late game possessions, but like I mean Trey's been such a killer in the fourth quarter and
yeah,
closing time. Like it's so like I get it, but it's so hard to be too critical because you know he's an elite shot maker, like, and he can make tough shots. So it's kind of like you would like to see the process be better. The Hawks find a way to generate more space for himself or for his teammates. But again, the guys he was on the floor with, he doesn't have that much of a rapport. These guys haven't
yeah,
played that much together. They don't have that chemistry. Where if you go back to the Hawks when they were in the playoffs in 2021, everybody knew what to do when Trey had the ball late game situations. Kevin Herter knew to get the ball to Trey behind the half court. John Collins knew to set the screen 38 feet up the floor to get Trey, a running head start. Trey attacked him. You're not helping off of Bogey's man. He has a floater going to his right, like that.
yeah.
And
And you
they
got
didn't have to
and
think.
all that.
They don't have to think about it.
Yeah,
These guys, it's a bunch of new guys. Like they got to work through, what they need to do, where they need to be, and it's stuff they got to talk about. And like also, let's talk after the experience. So I think like wins, these types of possessions are good for them if they make it to the playoffs because this is like the margins are going to be so thin in these playoff situations. Because I don't think there's not a talent or even an execution. Like the Hawks aren't that far away from these other teams. Like to me,
totally
what
agree.
I took away is like the Hawks and Knicks are a lot closer. Like honestly, I don't. There's probably no difference between these two teams, uh, other than the Knicks have been healthier and the
That's fair.
Hawks have a brand new team. Like that's the difference right now. But like in terms of like talent or their ability to compete with these teams, like the only team in the Eastern Conference right now that worries me on an execution level is Cavaliers, just because of their combination of size and shot making ability. But like overall, like the rest of these teams are, I think, are pretty vulnerable to what the Hawks can do on both sides of the floor now that they have Dyson Daniels.
I like Glenn's point about, wanting to see a little bit more diversity, but to me, like, I think the time to get more diverse will be when they get Jalen back. Like, I want to, when Jalen's back in the fold, I think, I think it's going to be time to incorporate some more wrinkles into the end of game stuff to get him in the actions and not exclusively, but just, there'll be time to mix up enough things that because I do think it needs to be a little bit more diverse. So,
And they they
but
they miss like as we always see late in the fourth quarter, teams start getting more aggressive with Trey at his ball screens,
yeah,
trapping, hard hedging, all that. And Jalen's short roll, man, they miss that so much. They
yeah,
miss that a ton. And yet, and Yeka's pretty good at it too. You know, but
Trey's got to trust Onyeka more in those
yeah,
situations because he makes good decisions out of the short. He's making Onyeka's playing some great ball offense.
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
But like it is teams are smart about that and they're like, okay, we're not gonna let the Trey and Yeka pick and roll kill us anymore. Like there's ways to take that away. So somebody else has to step up to be an additional playmaker. Could be Levert, could be Niang, could even be Ricochet. Like we don't that's the problem. We don't know yet. It used to just Jalen, where Trey could just he had that release foul, or he even had DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter was a good, like the Hawks were running actions for Hunter
Yep.
late game situations to get him going downhill to his right hand with Trey setting the screen. Like that was good action. They don't have that anymore. And unfortunately, and so like it's going to take some time to figure out who's that next guy. It with the I'll say this with the way Dyson Daniels was driving to the rim with such force and physicality, they may want to explore this a bit more, not just out of ISO situations where it's deliberate Trey setting screens for Dyson, have him go get downhill and trust him to make a play. I know that's well out of Dyson's comfort zone, but this is a good time to explore the space with Dyson because he's playing incredible basketball.
He is. The thing for me is to trust him on a late possession. He's got to make his free throws. He's
Yeah,
got he's got to make
Yep.
his free throws. Um, it's hard to trust a guy who's a 55, 60%, whatever he
It's
is right
around
now.
60.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you hope that comes. I mean, his offensive role is massively bigger than it's ever been. You
Yep.
know, and I think we are seeing growth. Like his ability to measure the floater, measure angles, to get, use his length to avoid kind of shot blocker. He's growing so much. For him to be an option at the end of the game, he's got to make free throws. So that's the
He's got
last
to be
probably
he's got to be confident that he's going to make those free throws too.
the
Like
last.
it's a double combination with it. And that's why I'm saying like it's hard because Dyson is on the floor and you don't trust him with the ball in his hands, even though he's one of your legitimate better players. So that's something where, I mean, they just have to work through, while while going through these last 20 some odd games.
I mean, there's a scenario where he's not on the floor next season because you get Jalen back, and all of a sudden, like Riza Shea is like a non-entity at the end of games. Like he has not been on the floor by and large for most of these end game situations. So like if you've got timeouts and if it's either a definite last possession or if it's something where you feel like the team isn't gonna, there's gonna be a stoppage after a miss, like they might not have Dyson on the floor in some of these situations next season. Is that possible? Am I crazy? Because
I think so, Kevin. I think Dyson is a little too good. I think they want Dyson Daniels to be more than just elite. They want him to be an all-star caliber player, and he
Okay.
is legitimately one of their best players right now, and he's playing at a high level. To me, that's why I'm like Dyson's got to play with more confidence at the end of these games, and like because he'll never get there. He'll be stuck in this good but not great basketball player status if he doesn't take that next step, which is stepping up to the free throw, which he did in this game. I thought he had two clutch free throws to keep him in it. I forget at what either it was in fourth quarter or overtime, but like that's his next step. But I think Dyson's going. He's just
okay.
he's one of their better players and one of their better passers,
Yeah.
almost as importantly.
And
So
he's playing so much more aggressively. I mean,
Oh
he
yeah.
looks like a guy who's being told be aggressive, and because it's really been remarkable to see that in the last 5, 10 games, whatever it's been, where he's really been when Trey's off, he's running the offense in a lot of cases, and just getting downhill, using screens, and so the growth is impressive. To me, I mean, the enjoyable part of this game, even though the Hawks didn't win, was another game where they just kept fighting and kept working and kept. I mean, this team really has a different characteristic, there. So
So okay, so they gave up 149 points, and part of that was overtime. But like when you look at what they did on defense over the course of the game, did they try different things in your mind? Like what did they try that just was an abject failure? What did they do in terms of how they wanted to treat like Precious Achua and Josh Hart as the forwards in the starting? Like what did they try to do defensively in order to get any traction whatsoever on Towns and Brunson?
I mean,
I
Precious
go
Chua
ahead.
had an outlier offensive game. I mean, that's not something he does very often. Tip your hat, give him credit. I'm not trying to take credit away from him. but he had a great game. And then Cat just couldn't miss from the 3-point line. So the one adjustment they made in the second half was they switched Ricochet onto Towns and switched Onyeka onto Achua, right?
Glenn,
Yeah.
That
Ricochet was doing that the entire game. And like to me, what was because I thought that was actually pretty good. Like what they were doing, Ricochet and having a Kongu guard Achua being the help defender. I thought the problem, at least to start the game, was Mo Gay guarding Josh Hart. I thought was probably a bit too much for him because he was just constantly in the wrong spot as a help defender. And to start the game when the Hawks were really getting down, Jalen Brunson did a great job of getting Mo Gay out of position, like where he was just leading, like Jalen Brunson's an all NBA caliber player, and he was just leading Gay by the nose there with Josh Hart helping him to get create seams and easy layups, easy dunks. What ended up happening though was that uh Dominic Barlow just wasn't up to the like to me, I thought the difference in the game was Barlow backup center just defensively was just train wreck. And it's not that surprising. Like it's they ideally you don't have Barlow doing that against a good basketball team. Like you don't, especially at center when there's so much help responsibilities. I just think Barlow, um, that combined with Carl Towns knew he had an easy matchup with Barlow and went to work with him. And like you said, Glenn, Cat couldn't miss. Brunson was making every jump shot he took. Uh, and the Knicks were executing, like they were executing. But I like to me, I want to key in on Gay and Barlow in particular because I thought if we're gonna be critical on the tactics, I thought Gay, if you weren't willing to put Mo Gay on Towns or Precious Achua, and I think there are real reasons why Quinn didn't do that. He probably shouldn't have played at least when those two guys were on the floor, just because Josh Hart is a too good of a basketball player to try to hide, or not necessarily hide, but have Mo Gay be that floater defender. Like he couldn't do what Mo Gay does best, which is be a good help defender, because Josh Hart wasn't going to let him get away with that. Like and that's where I thought maybe go with Terrence Mann instead of Gay, particularly in the second half when it didn't work in the first half, might have been ideal. I don't know what they would have done with backup center other than
Make
have.
make Gay the backup center.
I mean,
I mean,
Towns
yeah,
Towns would have ate him like a tooth.
worse
I
than
to
Barlow.
probably.
Okay.
I say yes, yeah.
It would have been foul trouble city. It wouldn't have mattered. Like to me, I think it's tough because I think Quinn didn't want to have Br Brunson on the floor with a Okongwu off it, but I think he should have just matched up a Okongwu with Cat, Okongwu and Ricochet in particular with Karl Anthony Towns, and then trusted Dyson to have Dyson deal with Brunson solo without any help. I think that's probably what maybe he could have adjusted with because Barlow just didn't know what to do with somebody like Towns. Like he was just like physically not strong enough to hang with Towns, and then Towns was just like manipulate, like shooting over the top of him as well. It was pretty basic. Uh, what what happened, especially to start that fourth quarter when the Hawks came back. Like that was tough.
Yeah, I mean it just I mean a little important part is Knicks are a veteran team
Yeah,
and they're a super physical team. They're a very, very physical team.
Yes.
And so it doesn't really surprise me that Barlow and Gabe weren't kind of ready for that. They both have to get stronger. I talked to one of my Patreon videos how like Moget has to learn when he blocks a shot to land on his feet. That's the actual development a skill he needs to learn is to block the shot and not end up on the floor. You know, and so but yeah, I think this was a terrible matchup for them. Clint wasn't ready to come back and play. The Nance injury super unfortunate. So there wasn't really a great solution.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No, there definitely wasn't.
yeah.
But it
So
sucks because I wanna talk about what Ricochet was doing with Towns. Like I mean, you want to talk about walling a guy off who's stronger than you. Like that was impressive. Towns is a good driver for a center. I thought that was actually a good adjustment to always have a Kong be the low man when Ricochet's in the game. If anything, maybe Quinn should have gone back to Ricochet to close over Niang when Achua was in the game. I thought because like I thought the Hawks were actually getting decent stops because what ended up happening was Niang was just too much of being the main character on defense, even though I thought he did a decent job. But like I think the Hawks needed more length that Ricochet could give than Niang shooting. But like that's picking hairs. Like they could have, it was a coin flip game at that point. But
Yeah,
maybe
I
that's the adjustment.
was watching that too, 'cause I don't know if you guys noticed, but what's Ricochet in this game was really impactful in transition. Like he
Oh
really
yeah.
unlocked their transition. He ran hard, made good plays, and so I kept kind of looking for maybe Quinn to kind of go back, for that reason as well, because he was just so effective in transition. The Knicks are like bottom seven in pace or bottom five in pace. I think they played the third slowest pace.
The
Hawks are
Knicks were
second in pace.
they were actively trying to play slower, and the Hawks weren't letting them do that. By the way, so that
Right.
was a
And Ricochet was a big part when he was on the floor was when they were playing the fastest,
yeah.
and I mean Hawks were right there at the end, so I don't, and the coaching staff and the organization surely are, you know, watching how many minutes are asking Ricochet to play, which was probably smart to do. Um, but yeah, I mean, my favorite uh, part of watching this game on the Hawks side was Carrot LeVert. Carrot LeVert was awesome.
Whew.
He was so good in this game.
Yeah.
Did everything.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he's a do it all wing apparently. I didn't know that was a part of his game. These finishes at the rim are like I asked Brad because he's a lifelong Michigan fan. I was like, has Karras always had this burst at the rim? Like what's going on here? And he thinks it might be new trade bump, but like Karras is playing some great basketball. So like and Niang as well. Uh, man, man, I think it's just uh he was playing well before this. I think this was a bad matchup for him combined with the his game is kind of unique, so it's going to be harder for Quinn to figure out when he can play him and when he can.
Yeah, and I mean, what the Cavs run is not all that dissimilar from what the Hawks run, motion and things like that. That's not what they're doing in LA. Chris Mann is living
Yeah,
it up in the inside corner while Harden's doing his thing out there. And so it's a bigger
learning curve.
Yeah.
and just a bigger acclimation, for Mann to adjust to that and stuff. And I mean, and you'll see he's like he cuts and moves, and so you see some of it, but it's just gonna take him a little bit little longer to kind of get a feel for how much motion they run.
Are we going to see Clint Capella after the All Star break?
I hope so. They need him. They've needed him before the Nance injury too. I'm not, my Twitter and Blue Sky posts aside, what I say about Capella, he's still a good player, and like to me, he's still a better basketball player overall than Nance. There are some issues. I'm hoping that this break brings the best out of Capella because it was really bad before they ultimately sent him home or he had the back spasm. Like he physically wasn't playing well and he was playing too slow, particularly on offense. And it was hurting them to the point that they had to do something. So hopefully he comes back, he has more juice, he has more burst because they needed him tonight. Like, I mean, swap Capella all of Barlow's minutes with Capella and some of Mo Gay's minutes with Capella. Like this is a different. They Hawks win that game. Capella, all his flaws, like he's not gonna get be in the wrong place. On defense, he's not gonna let uh campaign just go off on you to start the fourth quarter because you're not in position. defensively. Like that just can't happen at the NBA level, and respect to Barlow. I think he's going to be a good player, and it's a good investment that the Hawks have made, but that level of defense is just not acceptable on the NBA floor at the five position. You're just not going to be able to beat good teams if your backup situation's that playing that poorly defensively. So like Capella's back, he provides a physical element that I think the Hawks have kind of been missing. Teams have been trying to beat the Hawks up since Capella, has been away. So hopefully he can be more of that enforcer physically just by being his natural big self. So like they need him, and hopefully they get the best out of him because he's playing for his like to me he's playing for his next contract. Like, and he's got to show that he still got it, and I think he does.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, I it's mutually beneficial at this point, right? It's not really beneficial for him to, I don't know. I think there's enough of a role here that he can play for his contract better here than he could somewhere else. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I guess you'd have to
yeah,
go case by case and see what the needs are across the league, but
yeah.
there's
I
probably a
mean,
certain comfort level that he has here too that he wouldn't necessarily have to be learning from scratch in a new
and
setting.
yeah, and
the
he's
Hawks.
been an important voice in the locker room and has been a leader, and um, so you hope this break, like Tyler was saying, kind of brings him back in a better physical state than where he was before the last few games before he took some time off here. So that's what you hope for. And when the later in the season you get, you're fighting for a playoff spot. You need veterans on the court, and that's a factor as well.
With when we first started talking about Clint, you said teams are trying to beat up the Hawks. How about the Orlando Magic?
Yes.
Were they trying to beat up the Hawks?
I think they were just flailing around, like frustrated that they can't do their offenses at four. That was ridiculous. It wasn't. I'm not just talking about the flagrant fouls either, but like overall, I just felt like they're a young team and they were trying to impose their will on a bunch of older guys, and I'm like, what they and it just wasn't working because I'm like, what respect, respect to you guys. You guys had a great season last year, and you had a good start to your season, but this NBA. Nobody cares that y'all been hurt. Nobody cares that you guys have had some outlier injury luck this season. Like, tough luck, bro. But don't take it out on the other team by trying to hurt them. That's because that's what I felt like. The Jonathan Isaac, like I don't know how that's not a flagrant too. Uh, uh he had no chance at the ball, and he's not 22. That wasn't 22-year-old Jonathan Isaac going up to go block a shot. Because if it was, beat beat there to the spot. He wouldn't have been directly behind him, or he would have been to the side. Like he was
Yeah,
directly behind him.
he was on his left to start the play. I don't even understand why he went
He
behind him.
got
Why?
beat. He got beat was faster than him. He just got beat. And then so he I'm like, bro, you got beat. Give it up. Instead, he just like tries to block him from behind and undercuts him. And I'm like, man, that's inexcusable. The Wagner one too, like I said on the Locked On Hawks, like
What's
that
that?
was a Wagner got beat, sticks his leg out, like that's reckless. I thought that should have been upgraded to a flagrant foul. Like there's no place for that in the NBA. Like you get beat, you're gonna stick your leg out. Like what is this? He broke Nance's kneecap. Like that was inexcusable. And for that to happen in back-to-back plays, absolutely ridiculous. This is not the first time with the Magic. The Magic have have kind of a rap sheet this year of hurting guys with their recklessness. That's something the NBA needs to be like, yo, this happens again. People are getting suspended. We're hammering out fines because they took out two rotation players from the Hawks, and it cost them the game. It cost them the game against the Knicks, flat out.
Yeah,
With
it
no
did.
Nance, no Capella, like The Hawks were always going to be on an uphill battle when Okongwu went to the bench. Like that. There should have been more punishment from the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I never want to say it was malicious, but it was, to me, both plays were very reckless and unnecessary. And just, be professional and have some awareness about what you're doing and the impact it can have to the players around you on the floor. You get beat on a dunk, man. Don't go undercut that guy and put him flat on the ground. It's just it's like I said, I never want to say like, oh, he was trying to hurt them, but they were completely unnecessary, reckless plays, both of them, and it's not okay. It's not okay for professional NBA players to be that reckless on the floor.
Straight up. All right. Anything else we want to mention here in passing before we head out?
Go to the break.
All right, go to the break. Watch some Rising Stars, watch some All Star. All right. Well, I appreciate you jumping on a weird Thursday and headed into the break, and we'll do it again soon. Thanks, guys. And good night, Bob, I guess.
Good night, Bob.